Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today we have with us Lizzie Horvitz. How are you, Lizzie?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to come on our show.
Yeah, it's a great experience.
Yeah, so thank you. Can you kind of introduce yourself in your own words just so the audience knows about you, and then we'll get right into it?
Sure. I am the founder and CEO of Finch, which decodes products' environmental impacts. We rate products based on their environmental footprint to help consumers make better purchasing decisions and then help companies make better manufacturing decisions. I've been in the sustainability space for my entire career, passionate really about how we can fix climate change in the private sector. And after working at Unilever for 3 years, I decided to become an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow. That's a big jump. How do you like it so far?
I absolutely love it. I thought in grad school, I went to school for a master's of environmental management and an MBA, and thought that I, for the rest of my life, would work at a big company like Unilever. And so that was really the goal. And then when I got there and realized it really wasn't everything I thought it was going to be, I sort of went back to the drawing board and figured out, what are the other options? And an opportunity arose to go work for a startup based in Southeast Asia. And I just completely fell in love with entrepreneurship, taking a company from inception to scale, et cetera. And it was a great sort of testing ground before I went off and started my own company. And then realized that I just wanted to dedicate my life and my own business to this.
And I heard that the sustainability, these type of products have gained more popularity since COVID. Is that true?
I think COVID provided an opportunity for people to see how detrimental we were on the planet, right? Nobody was flying anymore. There wasn't smog.
Yeah.
The waters of Venice weren't polluted. So people sort of got this taste of what happens when commerce stops, which obviously wasn't a good thing, but was kind of a nice way for people to understand their impact on climate change. And so, yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. Since COVID, people have been much more concerned with their own footprint after seeing, what this world could look like.
So true. And it's so important, it's surprising that it wasn't a primary requirement for any business to look at this, because we have to take care of our home, right, our earth, and this definitely. And I'm so grateful that you took this leap from employee to entrepreneurship, and we're happy to have you. And what are you seeing the trends for the next 5 years in this niche?
Thank you so much. Well, not only is it not a requirement for companies, but it's actually worse than that. Companies are able to say whatever they want about products, right? They're able to say this is eco-friendly, this has sustainable packaging, it's chemical-free. They make these claims and contribute to greenwashing in a way that's really detrimental, because people think that they're buying things that are good for the planet, but actually it ends up not being very good in many cases. And so part of the trends that I see in the future are demanding more transparency and more sort of uniformity of how we talk about this across the board, because 5 years ago, Gen Z wasn't really old enough to be shopping for themselves, right? And now they are a huge, population who cares more about sustainability than any other issue facing this planet. And so when we think about that and their buying power, they're really encouraging companies to make changes and to be a lot more transparent. And so I think we'll see a lot more pressure. We'll see companies not being able to get away with claims that they used to be able to make. and generally, everybody being more educated for it.
So pressure from who? Is there like actual government agencies that are looking at this?
In the United States, we're actually a little bit behind. In Europe, there are many governmental agencies who are taking control of this. They're always about 5 or 10 years ahead of us. In the United States, I don't know if we'll ever get there, to be honest, where the government will be taking such a strong stance. But I think in the nonprofit world and just through social media, that's really where companies are feeling the pressure. And what I'm excited about with Finch is we will be able to really, part of the hard part with companies right now is they have a difficult time making a business case for sustainability, right? They don't know how much money they're leaving on the table, how much money they're losing, et cetera. And we're able to take these numbers, take these behavioral insights from the way that our extension works and say, 20% of the market looked at your product, but ended up going with a different product because that was more sustainable. And so I'm excited for companies to be able to really have that business case for making the right decisions.
So that would be my next question. So does sustainability create, other than, actually taking care of our environment, other than that, does it help the business? I kind of got a glimpse of it that consumers, if Gen Z, for example, if they're seeing two similar products, one is sustainable, they'll pick that. So is there any data behind that right now at the current date about knowing if there's a difference in their sales or growth by becoming sustainable?
I don't have large scale numbers on that quite yet, but I do know anecdotally at Unilever, we had 38 brands in North America, and the brands where we invested in sustainability grew almost twice as fast as the brands where we did not invest in sustainability. So that's just one data point from one company, but I do think that there's truth to, prioritizing long-term gain over short, quarterly earnings. I think beyond that, when you invest in sustainability as a company, you're also hedging against a lot of risk, right? When you're being irresponsible about the amount of water that your product is using, you're not protecting yourself against future droughts or wildfires or other things that climate change comes with. And so I think all around, it's a really smart decision from a financial standpoint, on top of being obviously good for the planet.
Yeah, like there's motivators behind it.
Exactly. Yep.
And do you think a small business, not someone, not like a bigger corporation, but a smaller business can introduce sustainability?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because often what happens is the larger companies are really the only ones that have the upfront money to pay for a lot of these changes. One example is like post-consumer recycled materials, or something that every company wants to get their hands on. And if you are a Procter & Gamble or a Unilever, you have an easier time doing that than, a regular startup. I think on top of that, startups don't have a chief sustainability officer or a head of sustainability or a scientist, right? And so I think it's more of an uphill battle for smaller companies. But what we're seeing in the space is exciting, pre-competitive collaboration, where a lot of small companies will come together who would otherwise be competitors and say, we're all looking for the same materials. Let's combine our forces and pay for more, right? There's a lot of those types of innovations happening that makes it really a lot easier for smaller companies to play in the game.
And Lizzie, it sounds like there's multiple future niches that people can jump on, like a couple that came to mind right now, just listening to it. Maybe they're out there, I'm not sure. I'm just thinking out loud that, the one is companies providing funding to go sustainable, right? Or some other kind of brokerage or brokering that kind of a deal to bring a group of small businesses together with the same type of brand and create a sustainable product. So what do you think about that? Those kind of niches are ability for entrepreneurs to get into, right?
I think absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. I think also it's worth noting that investing in sustainability doesn't always mean that your product is going to be more expensive. I think when you're comparing apples to apples, one product versus another in a store, you can easily come to that conclusion. But what actually happens sometimes is, two similar products, one that's more sustainable might be more expensive, but it lasts longer, right? You won't have to use it as much because of the ingredients, or it's made with better materials, so you can reuse it more, all these different factors. And so unless we think about sort of all of these potential negative externalities and other factors, yes, there's opportunities a lot for funding of startups, et cetera. But moreover, it ends up being a more economical choice for a lot of reasons when you're making a sustainable decision.
And do you feel that in the future, those claims that these brands were making, they will start becoming more truthful about those claims? And my next part is that how could they get away with making those kind of claims, especially North American companies?
My hope is that through companies like Finch, you're absolutely right. To answer your second question, the reason they can get away with these claims is that they don't mean anything, right? So, we love using chemical free as an example. Our world is made of chemicals, right? Lemon juice is a chemical, baking soda is a chemical. And so saying something's chemical free is not only incorrect, it just doesn't mean anything. Another word would be eco-friendly, right? There's nothing stopping a company from making an eco-friendly claim because there's nothing they have to prove to say that. There's no definition that's sort of universally known. And so my hope for Finch is that we can start normalizing this across companies, across brands, so that you're really just looking at one set of data and companies have to sort of meet those standards. It's not a different definition depending on what brand you're from. So I hope, that's sort of my pie in the sky overarching goal for Finch.
Awesome. And do you see Finch working with government agencies in the future, or are you currently working with any government agencies?
We're not, and that's a good question. I don't see us in the short term working with government agencies quite yet. I don't know if they're, I think to solve climate change, you definitely need input from private sector, NGOs, and governments, no question. But I'm more excited, Europe has been successful, but in North America, I'm more excited about the potential for companies like Finch and other companies to sort of take this on as opposed to governments getting involved. So if the US government decides to take this on, we're excited to chat with them about it. But I don't think they necessarily have to at this moment in time.
Oh, that's great. How'd you come up with this name Finch?
Good question. I had a newsletter before I started this company that was along similar lines, and it was called The Green Lizard. My name's Lizzie. My nickname is Lizard. And so I thought that was a really clever name.
Oh, nice.
And
it's clever.
When I started, thank you. And when I started this company, I wanted to call it Green Lizard. And when I hired my marketing team, they said, if you really care about this, we will make this good, but you're making our jobs a lot harder with the name Green Lizard. It's just not sophisticated. It's hard to have people take it seriously. And so we did sort of like a two-day naming workshop where we came up with a lot of different ideas and names. Finch stood out because it's the most adaptable species on the planet. It was studied by Darwin. And we like to think of our community as, living in urban and rural areas and all over the world and being able to sort of like be adaptable wherever. And so we really liked that connection. And that's how we kept the name.
No, it's cool. So it has a meaning behind it. I just wanted to know, sometimes I hear, oh, it's my grandfather's name or something, right? So this is falling right in the lines of what you do. So it's perfect. And also from my side, I must say Green Lizard is catchy, like as an entrepreneur, like when I hear that, I was like, Green Lizard, what is this green?
I kind of thought so
green
too.
Environment. Yeah, like environment, lizard, like this is, it's cool. Like
Totally.
if I heard it, I'll remember it, right? So that's the whole point of a name is you want it to be catchy. And I don't want to take you backwards. I love Finch as well. Just sharing my view on it.
No, I agree. One of the reasons also we loved changing it from Green Lizard is because my newsletter was just me, right? I was the center of it. It was all about Lizzie as Green Lizard. And Finch is so beyond who I am. Yes, I'm the founder. Yes, I'm the CEO. But we have an incredible team of people who we're working with whose name isn't Lizzie and nickname isn't Lizard. And so I love that Finch is sort of this neutral. Everybody feels a part of it.
Yes, I agree. That's good. So my next question is, Lizzie, will you consider franchising this?
In what way would you see that happening? I'm so curious.
Just thinking. So, creating a brand where you start franchising this to independent owners, following your procedures in cities all over the world.
I don't think so. I don't think that's necessary because we rate products in the public domain. Any product that's on Amazon in the category that we rate.
Okay.
Already rate them. And so we don't need to sort of partner with companies to have them get rated. We hope to grow, we'll expand by category and by geography, but otherwise we wouldn't
There's no need.
Sell Finch. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So tell me, what's the difference between when you were working in a job and now that you're an entrepreneur? How does your morning look like when you first wake up? What did you used to do and what do you do now? If you don't mind sharing.
This question. No, it's one of I love talking about this because I think there's such a difference. I felt like in a big job at a large company, not a big job, but a job at a large company, it felt a little bit like Groundhog Day. You'd wake up and you'd have the same things to accomplish every single day, right? You'd have to, check your system. It was like a hamster wheel where, on an off day, you might get a unique question from a brand that you could really use your brain for. But otherwise, it was a lot of the same work. And certainly not only every day, but certainly every year, around the same time of year, there would be the same thing that you could expect. It was a lot of monotony, to be honest. And as a startup, I have not had 2 days that have been the same in the past 2.5 years. So to your question, it's 8 a.m. for me right now. I'm interviewing with a podcast. Tomorrow I'll be prepping for some investor calls. I would say every 3 months for me, my job completely changes. And so that sort of keeps me on my toes. I'm able to learn about so many different things. That's probably my favorite part, honestly, is that when I was at Unilever, I was using my background as a sustainability expert, which was fantastic. That's what I went to school for. But now, I'm thinking about hiring practices and internal operations and fundraising and all these different aspects that a founder and leadership team has to constantly be keeping in mind as they're running a company. And so I just feel like I'm using a lot of different parts of my brain.
Makes complete sense. In the corporate world, you're also kind of assigned specific duties and tasks, and you don't really go out of that realm. So it can, over time, just feel like it's just repetition. So I'm so glad that you're experiencing that, because it's all about that growth too, the internal growth. When you're learning things and you're taking those steps in business, it's exciting. You know what I mean? Like, especially when you love your brand and you love your business, you want that, you want to have that on your plate. You know, it's different, right? Like you want to be around new challenges, new experiences. So definitely I'm happy for you.
I think that's a really good point, and it brings up another aspect, which is in large corporations, there's almost this sort of race to get promoted. There are only so many spots on the level above you, and so people are really territorial, right? And you don't want to get in someone else's space. Sometimes your boss will give you a hard time about working on something that you're interested in, but isn't part of your core duties. And I think, you know, partly it's the way that I really wanted to run Finch. I don't know if this is true to all startups, but at our company, our mantra is, you know, if you're getting your own work done that you're responsible for, there's nothing within Finch that's out of your realm, right? So I have my data scientist coming to me with TikTok ideas, or my social media person coming to me with rating ideas, and everything in between. And so I really like to foster that environment where my colleagues and employees are able to really use different parts of their brains as well.
Lizzie, have you ever considered starting your podcast on this topic? Because you sound like you're well versed, right? Like you're well versed in this industry. Have you ever thought about spreading that message via podcasting to get this to more and more people?
I love being a guest on podcasts. It's been really fun for me to be on shows like yours.
Thank you.
I think, you know better than I do. It's hard work to be a host. It's a full-time job for a lot of people. And so, I think at some point I haven't found a podcast that is specifically focused on what Finch does. And so I think there's a
good market.
There's a good opportunity for us, but yeah, exactly. But I think right now I'm happy to just be on other people's podcasts and take advantage of their audience and network.
Yeah, it's just step by step, right? I just wanted to drop that there because you have great communication skills, right?
Thank you.
You know this information, right? Like the back of your hand. When podcasters do podcasting, the good ones, they're actually doing it purely out of the people. Like they're just so passionate about bringing more and more like information and message and value to people, right? So they're coming from an elevated consciousness, right? So they're going into it from that feeling. And it honestly, like for me, it doesn't feel like hard work at all, right? Just like your business, it doesn't feel like that at all. Like you feel very comfortable. You love it every morning. You love meeting, right? Doing your stuff. Same with me, is I love meeting people. I love being around these ideas and the motivation behind it, the mindset behind it, and then bring that value to the people. What happens is that when you bring that awareness out there, it's not just lifts your business, right? It will do that as default, but it also educates the people. And the only reason why I said that is because you have that talent. Like you'll be a good host, but that's something that you should look into when you're expanding your business, because it will expand like amazing with your own podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
No problem.
And it's something we'll think about for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And we like to ask our guests what their innermost superpower is that got them to this point.
Oh, shoot. I wish I had prepared for this better.
No. There's no preparation here. Two friends. We're just very organic. We just chit chat. Take your time. Think about it. I always allow the guests to kind of take that in. There's no rush or pressure. This is your space. Just take your time. Something will flow. Just look deep, and there's something within, because the business is not the business that creates the business on its own without human beings is just nothing, right? It just breaks and some signage and website, right? But it's the people behind it. So you going into this venture, making it successful and seeing Finch, go places, you got to this point because there is something within you, deep within you, that is a superpower that got you to this point, right? So just feel that and see what comes out.
I think I am relentlessly optimistic. It's easy for me to envision. Yeah, I think it's really easy for me to envision a world that doesn't exist, and imagine what's possible, as maybe cheesy or cliche as that sounds. And so sometimes that can be a detriment, right? Not always being real and seeing the maybe downsides of people or businesses. But I think being able to envision this world that runs perfectly has been really great for me as I've started Finch.
That's beautiful. I love what you said, like this is an incredible superpower and it's going to take you places. But the optimism is super important, and never feel like, oh, I'm being over optimistic because, what if I'm outside of reality or something? But if you're not thinking big, if you're not feeling that what you can accomplish, it's very difficult to take those big steps if there's no belief and there's no optimism, right? So keep that fire burning, keep it up high, because that is what is going to elevate Finch, right? So it's a great superpower.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I want to say thank you so much, Lizzie, for coming on our show. It was a great chat. Learn a lot. My wishes, my best wishes are for you and your company and all the employees. I hope you guys grow really big and change the way people do business and make it more sustainable for the future generations. And you're doing a great job. There's great leadership. There's great mindset behind it. Keep going. And I hope in the future, when you get to a place where you need to share something else, just send us an email. We'll love to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
No problem. And audience, love you guys. Thank you so much for engaging on the social media. Visit my website, shaheddurrani.com. Also, Lizzie's information will be in the show notes. Get in touch with her if you have any questions. And, just want you guys to know, really genuinely appreciate you guys for being there. I hope these episodes bring value to your life. But I always say, taking the information in, listening to this or watching this is just one part, it's just information. We need to do something with that information. So take action, get out there, make your dreams a reality. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lizzie. Bye-bye.